Ranger Suarez has said publicly that he wants to be a member of the Philadelphia Phillies for his entire career. He's also on the final year of his contract and will become an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career next offseason. What does the future hold for Ranger Suarez, and will it be with the Phillies? Let's talk about it next on the PHLY Phillies podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli here, and today I thought we would take a look at the future of Ranger Suarez because he will be an unrestricted free agent for the first time next offseason. Ranger has pretty adamantly said the other day that he wanted to be a Philly his entire career. He spoke with the media in Clearwater and called the Phillies his childhood club, and that he wanted to remain with the team throughout the entirety of his career. Obviously, in baseball business, that's much easier said than done, but Ranger is a club and fan favorite alike, and I think the team would have mutual interest if it's at all possible. Now, Ranger Suarez signed with the Phillies when he was a 16-year-old as an amateur out of Venezuela and made his major league debut with the team in 2018. He's since gone on to pitch in some of the Phillies' most critical spots, both as a starter and a bullpen weapon for Rob Thompson's playoff teams throughout both of their tenures. He recorded the final out of the NLCS against the San Diego Padres that sent the Phillies to the World Series for the first time in 13 years. He's thrown over 600 innings, posted a career 3.4 ERA, won 41 games, made an all-star team for the first time last year, and pitched like a Cy Young candidate in the beginning of 2024 before his injury. He also features a seemingly childlike enjoyment of playing the game of baseball and pairs that with a willingness and ability to pitch in any spot, and that has earned him fanfare in Philadelphia more than many of the top pitchers across this city's landscape. The short of it, Ranger Suarez knows how to pitch. He doesn't blow you away with velocity. He doesn't have the world's greatest stuff, but he's a pro's pro. He knows how to pitch in any spot and any count. He can throw strikes to both sides of the plate and doesn't shy away from throwing against right-handed hitters. He's calm and collected in big moments. He doesn't waver on the mound. It's easy to see why the Phillies and Phillies fans love Ranger Suarez. Yet the Phillies are in a weird spot with Ranger. On one hand, the Phillies will likely be in the thick of a playoff race this year and relying on Ranger Suarez to be an important member of the rotation. On the other hand, they know that Suarez is on the final year of his deal, and there is a chance that he does walk next season in free agency. Pair that with the inevitable emergence of Andrew Painter, who Rob Thompson said the other day on WIP would be in the starting rotation when he makes his major league debut, and the Phillies could even conceivably go to a six-man rotation when that happens. The questions have been on my mind for quite a while now for Ranger Suarez. What does it look like, and what does it mean for Ranger Suarez at the end of this season? What I'm trying to get at is, could the Phillies consider moving Ranger Suarez at the trade deadline if they're comfortable with the other four arms, plus Painter for the remainder of the season and into the postseason? Now, I'm going to say this right now to avoid any confusion. I think trading Ranger Suarez would be a foolish endeavor this season. First of all, putting any kind of pressure on a 21-year-old Andrew Painter a season out of having Tommy John surgery, I think would be a foolish endeavor for a team with playoff aspirations. The beautiful thing about this rotation is that the Phillies can now bring Painter along on his timeline and not rush him to the big leagues. They're simply just not shallow at starting pitching. That's a good problem to have. I also think it's short-sighted in the sense that Suarez can be used as the ultimate weapon. With the depths in the Phillies rotation they hope to have and remaining healthy this year, which of course is a big ask, Ranger, especially in a wild card round or a DS series, could slide into what is a Swiss Army knife roll out of the bullpen. He gets high leverage outs. He could give you multiple innings. He could be used as another high leverage lefty against left-handed hitters, to which he's given up just 6 home runs and issued 11 walks over the last 3 seasons. Suarez provides you options across multiple different roles in the stretch run and into the postseason. I just simply think it would be short-sighted to move on from Ranger Suarez just because you fear losing him for nothing this offseason. But if for whatever reason the Phillies aren't as good as we expect them to be, maybe a trade conversation is a different one. I just don't think it's wise to give up that type of arm unless the team desperately needs a major league bat at the deadline. What that would facilitate also means that the Phillies have had potentially injuries along the way. This is a doomsday worst case scenario. I think the better of the two options is to figure things out as you go and see if you can play your hand into free agency. Now, of course, there is a very real chance that Ranger Suarez could walk in free agency, get a big deal elsewhere, and the Phillies would lose him for nothing. That's the unfortunate side of this business. But with the Phillies having a chance to free up a significant amount of cap space next year, there still is a chance that Ranger returns on a multi-year extension. So I did this exercise, and I went back and I looked at some of the last couple of off seasons to see which comparable pitchers in terms of stats, service time, and age Ranger Suarez compared to, and what they signed for over the last couple of seasons. I went back to 2022. The most comparable pitcher in terms of all of those things included was Jon Gray. Jon Gray signed a 4-year, $56 million deal with the Texas Rangers. Now, in 7 seasons with Colorado, Gray made 151 starts, but he posted a 4.59 ERA, which is 1.3 points higher than what Ranger has done throughout his career. Listen, I understand pitching in Colorado is a difficult task, but that's a full run per 9 more than what Suarez has provided. His whip was closer to Rangers as 1.3 compared to Rangers 1.28. He and Ranger had identical walks per 9 at 3. Gray did strike out a batter per inning in Colorado, which is something that Rangers only done once in a season throughout his career. But teams pay for availability and innings pitched, and that's why Gray got the money that he did. As I said, 151 starts over 7 seasons. With all that said, I think Suarez is easily going to clear the $14 million a year that Gray got because A, I think Ranger Suarez is better than Jon Gray, and B, 2026 compared to 2022, the market has simply changed. On to the next example, we'll go to 2023. 2 pitchers signed with comparable numbers in 2023. Jameson Taillon at 31 years old signed a 4-year, $68 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. And interestingly enough, at 30 years old, Taijuan Walker signed a 4-year deal for $72 million with the Phillies. We don't really need to get into the Taijuan Walker stuff too much. It's been talked about ad nauseum here in Philadelphia since Walker signed that contract. But Taillon, on the other hand, got $17 million a year from the Cubs after a solid year with the New York Yankees. He posted a 3.91 ERA that season. Ranger's been better than that in 4 of his 5 full seasons with the Phillies. Where Taillon has Suarez beat, again, is in innings pitched. He's thrown more innings in each of the last 4 seasons than Ranger did, and teams, again, will pay for availability and innings pitched. But I think Suarez clears Taillon, and so does the market. We're getting closer, but we're not quite there just yet. I think Suarez ends up getting more than $17 million a season. So let's go to last year. And this is, I think, where Ranger Suarez is going to kind of land. Eduardo Rodriguez, coming off of his 30-year-old season, signed a 4-year, $80 million deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think this is about what the Phillies and Suarez should expect in the 2026 offseason. Maybe it's a little less, but I think it's probably somewhere in that $18 to $20 million range per season, and I think that probably feels a little appropriate. Rodriguez leveraged a really good 2023 season where he posted a 3.3 ERA and struck out 143 hitters over 152 innings. He was able to opt out of his final 3 years of his contract with the Tigers before signing the 4-year deal with the Diamondbacks. I think the $80 million range is going to be where Ranger Suarez approximately sits when we get to the 2026 offseason and free agency. Obviously, how Suarez pitches and how often Suarez pitches this season will dictate the type of contract that he gets. But I wouldn't be entirely shocked if he ends up getting more in the open market than what the Phillies are looking to spend per season. Could this be the final year in red pinstripes for Ranger Suarez? Only time will tell, but I think the money and the contract would lead me to believe the answer to that question may be yes.